Oh, welcome back to another video. Still under section 1, core beliefs. And for this question, this is uh, everybody says that cash flow is king. And what's my take? That's a very interesting question because, yes, cash flow is important, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's king. I guess it really depends on what you're trying to do with your business. But I would say that your audience is king. And I don't ascribe to the current future is the attention audience. While there is a bit of that because of social media, and I understand there's a lot of that because of social media, it's a finite resource to get in front of, as opposed to having your list. Now that's something that the old greats always discussed anyway, was having your customer list. Is you can take all of your business assets away, but as long as you still have your customer list, you can rebuild. And a lot of that's because if you have a list of buyers, people who've bought from you, it's not too difficult to come up with new offers and present them to them as long as you still have access to that list. That's probably the greatest thing. And the reason why you can look at how other industries see that also as king is based off of the restrictions that come into play. So outside of privacy reasons, why is it so important that certain platforms prevent you from being able to access certain groups of people on their platform by directly targeting them? There was a big push, especially on Meta, where you could suddenly no longer target people who liked Tony Robbins, for example. And this is really bizarre. They used the removal as in saying, oh, people were targeting Tony Robbins for hate speech related reasons. And I think that's a lie. And the reason why is I've never seen an ad that somebody's paying for, which the sole purpose was to bash Tony Robbins. However, what I did see was a lot of ads that were for self-help and personal development, where you'd only need to target Tony Robbins and you'd make sales. When they removed Tony Robbins as an option, now you sort of had to pay more, do more digging, scrounge around to get in front of those same buyers. Now, if we look at this from a different picture, if I have a list of people that all bought Tony Robbins stuff, if I have that list, not only can I sell that list other stuff, but I could use what's called lookalike audiences or similar audiences. And all these markets have it where they take the identifiers of your current list and they find people that are very similar to it. Those are very strong indicators that you're going to have a winning audience. So in that case, your customer list or your buyer list specifically is king. And the sooner you can get to a buyer list and start using that to find more customers or develop, the sooner you're a lot better off. There's even examples of people who have very small lists. We'll say like 1,000 buyers or less and able to make six-figure income from these people because of their propensity to buy and the niche they're in. It's not every place. Like if you are in gardening and these people spend maybe $20 every 2 months, if you have 1,000 people on there, you might make some money, but you're not making six figures. So it really depends on the industry you're in. But even then, I would take a list of buyers of gardening products over pretty much any other niche where I don't have the buyers. At least I can do something with that audience. Right? So for me, that's king. Cash flow is important, but the fastest way to cash flow is by having a buyer list. And there are spaces out there. For example, I was working with a client who was having a really hard time finding new people for their offer. They were doing all these sort of different types of targeting. They were on different platforms, but it was like they're trying interests, they're trying behaviors, and they were getting some, but they weren't quite crossing over. And then I found out that they had a buyer list of people for the last few years who bought from them. So we created a similar or a lookalike audience off of the buyers, and it was like night and day. They immediately started to get more people buying from them, more people, interested in their prospect and their offers and things like that. So that has a huge boom. Additionally, on top of that, there are a lot of creative things you can do with your buyer list. For example, if I had a list of 1,000, we'll say gardeners again. If I had a list of 1,000 gardeners, I can survey them, ask them questions, find out what they want, and then make that and sell that to them, or source it and sell it to them. So not only do I have a repository of people who've bought from me that I know I can sell their stuff to, now I can directly ask them, hey, what do you want? And then I can go make it. And all of that is way more powerful than having cash flow, because a government law could come into place, an ordinance in your city could come into, they could suddenly wipe out aspects of your business where you're making lots of money, and your cash flow immediately vaporizes. Then what are you going to do? Right? Yeah, cash flow is king, but if you're not grabbing your clients and holding on to them, you've got a big problem. The other side of that would be a client I was talking to recently. They've been around for over a decade, and this is the second time I've run into this person. They tend to exist in this web design, website creation space. And like I said, the second time this has happened, where they've been in business for almost 20 years, so over 10 years, and something happened on the algorithms, and all of their normal traffic that they were getting from Google searches or whatever just dried up. And when I asked them about their customer list, they didn't have it. They never bothered to save the customer information. Like, maybe they can dig through their emails and find, as many as they can and then reach out to them. But it's such a afterthought for a lot of businesses, where they're like, I'll just get going and then I'll put like something in that in place. And that's the wrong way to look at it. You need to put something like that in place so that as you get going, it's in there and you're immediately capturing these people. It would have made a world of difference. Now they're both struggling heavily because they need to find a way to bring people in, and they have no easy route because they were going off of cash flow as king. They had very expensive offers. They were doing really well. But as soon as their audience dried up, didn't matter how much cash flow they had, because that cash flow almost immediately stopped, because they didn't have a list of any kind they could go back to, that they could create an audience from. They had nothing. And that, to me, is way more important than simple cash flow. I'm not saying cash flow isn't important, but as far as king, I'd put the audience. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.